We're heading into a campaign year. Now Nikki Haley has announced she's running for the Republican nomination, and she says very pointedly, it's time for a new generation of politicians to lead our country. That's very pointedly at both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, people over 75. Are you that new generation for the Democrats if the president decides not to run?
So let me say that I think that is very coded language. And what I know from traveling our country is the American people want leaders who will see what's going on in their lives and create solutions. Not just offer solutions, but create solutions. And in Joe Biden, we have a president who is probably one of the boldest and strongest American presidents we have had in his response to the needs of the American people. Ask any senior in America who has diabetes, who has been looking at the likelihood, the possibility of going bankrupt or paying for their insulin. And because Joe Biden is strong and bold, finally, we have capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month, and we'll cap the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. Because of bold leadership that understands the needs of the American people, under Joe Biden, we are now going to get rid of lead in pipes in America. Grandmothers and grandfathers for years have been complaining about the toxic effects of lead poisoning on their children because of Joe Biden's leadership. Presidents have talked about dealing with infrastructure, including, remember Infrastructure Week? Joe Biden got it done. That's what the American people want. They want their leaders to get things done, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be investing in America's workforce when it comes to developing and manufacturing, U.S. manufacturing of semiconductor chips, because we know that we can't wait for other countries during a crisis like a pandemic to supply the supply chain with what we need. That's the work that's been done. And I cannot stress enough that the American people deserve to have leaders who get things done.
Why do you think the president has such low popularity, favorable ratings, and you have even less favorable ratings? Why do you think that is?
I will tell you what I see when I'm out on the road. I see people thanking the president.
It's not translating.
Thanking our administration. I think that what we have to do is focus on what is actually strengthening America and the American people and American families. And when I talk with American families about what they want and what they care about, things like bringing down the cost of health care, bringing down unemployment, doing the work of strengthening and growing America's workforce, including American manufacturing, that's what the American people want.
Dozens of Democratic leaders are saying that they not only don't think that he's the strongest candidate, you know, considering the larger field that could be possible given his age and other defects, but they don't think that you're the right person to be on the ticket. Why do you think that?
I think that it is very important to focus on the needs of the American people and not political chatter out of Washington, D.C.
And you obviously ran for president in 2020. You want to be president. Do you still want to be president someday?
Joe Biden has said he intends to run for re-election as president, and I intend to run with him as vice president of the United States.
You were at Tyre Nichols' funeral.
Yeah.
You saw the grief. You felt it. You spoke to it eloquently. Is it time for Democrats to compromise on police reform with this Congress, as they did on guns last session?
I think it's time for American leaders to address what we should do to improve this issue. And I, as you know, was a co-author of the original George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And I am a former prosecutor. And I believe that what we have done as an administration within our capacity in terms of the executive branch to deal with federal law enforcement and say no-knock warrants, what we have done to say that there should be body cameras. This kind of approach to policing is something all people want if we value safe communities, including that we have accountability among all people.
Let me ask you, what does Governor Ron DeSantis not know about Black history and the Black experience when he says that slavery and the aftermath of slavery should not be taught to Florida school children?
I don't know what he knows and what he doesn't know, but I know this. Any push to censor America's teachers and tell them what they should be teaching in the best interest of our children in partnership with the parents of America is, I think, wrong-headed. The people who know our children best are their parents and their teachers in terms of the time they spend and the investment they've placed in the brains and capacity of our children who are our nation's future. And it should not be some politician saying what should be taught in our classrooms.
And you said that Nikki Haley was using coded language. What do you think about her suggesting a cognitive test for presidents, for candidates for president?
I did not watch her speech, but when you present the suggestion that anyone is saying that it is time for a new generation, and they're running against the person who is president, and when presented as though it's an attack, I would like to let us all be clear that the attack is misplaced. If the point of it is that we need leadership that is strong, because we have a strong leader in Joe Biden.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.